Mayava looking left, throws a slant, caught, touchdown, Kyle Ford.
This is a great job by Lincoln Riley getting Kyle Ford matched up one-on-one outside man-to-man defense with the true freshman Des Ricks. That's advantage USC all day. And you see the emotion there for Kyle Ford. Got to give a lot of credit to Mayava for recognizing the matchup outside. You want to attack the true freshman in that situation. Perfect execution. It was a beautiful route outside on the quick slam.
All right, Student Body Right USC podcast. Dwayne Douglas here. Apologize, I haven't been here in a while because I have been under the weather. So I want to say it's good to be back. Number one, number two, RIP to Greg Gumbel, who was one of the best broadcasters of my time. So definitely check it. Definitely I see people posting a lot of great calls, play-by-play calls by Greg Gumbel. Just one of the best that CBS Sports ever had. So good job by all the folks putting stuff out here about him. USC 35, Texas A&M 31. If you listen, when it was 24-7, I don't know how many people would have said the USC is going to win that game, but they're able to come back and win that game. Just a great job by the Trojans that they fought throughout this whole entire game. They did a great job. You look at all the things that Jay Mayava went through in this ball game, and he took you on a roller coaster. Whatever your favorite roller coaster is at Disneyland, he took you on that ride because it was up and down, up and down, up and down. Whenever you thought it was over, he still threw one more pick. He threw the first pick, second pick, third pick, and you're like, okay, are we done yet? Or we still throwing a pick party? But he's definitely been that kind of quarterback. He's been a guy who's been a roller coaster. And I think what I've seen from him, and just to be frank and honest, I think the one thing that in this situation that I thought was really good was at least we know what he is now, where the panic interceptions that we saw from Miller Moss, if Miller Moss got a little bit more time and in a regular season, stuff like that, then maybe we could have seen the true Miller Moss that we thought we weren't going to see when he was throwing interceptions at Maryland and turning the ball over at Washington, in critical times in games. Everybody was feeling good. I was feeling good about the Holiday Bowl six TD passes and whatever, but that wasn't the real Miller Moss. So at least we're getting to see the real Jaden Mayava before the next season starts, and then Lincoln Riley has to make a decision on whether or not they go forward with him, or if they go to the portal, or they just kind of build it up and then just, hey, let's just ride with a young guy. And see if Hussein Longstreet is ready to go for the Trojans. But that's neither here nor there. Really good comeback by them, by the Trojans here. And listen, they've had a lot of moments in this season where if they just said, I'm good, we can't do it anymore, or I just want to we gotta lay down for an opponent. They didn't lay down for an opponent the entire time. I think that's kudos to Lincoln Riley. It's kudos to Danton Lynn and everybody else involved. With that being said, they still, got off to these really hard starts. That's part of Lincoln and his preparation and play calling, and just getting some gimme throws for the quarterback. If you're going to take the ball first consistently, I'd like to see something offensively early in the game to let me say, okay, this is a couple of specialty plays that USC has worked on, so I can see something special in those moments early in ball games. And I guess I have not seen any of those things as USC continues to take the ball first and go 3 and out. But They didn't go 3-and-out when it mattered. Late in the game, they were able to win that game, the, to win the Vegas Bowl against A&M. So we talked about, for the transfer portal and guys leaving, and Deuce Robinson, Florida State, Zachariah Branch, we don't know yet still. So why were they not successful at USC, or why they left, whatever. But I think the thing about wide receivers is the one of the art forms of being a wide receiver is your route running. And I think we can all attest to that, a guy like Zachariah Branch isn't the best route runner. So when we talk about creating separation, a guy like Sun God, you know, for the Detroit Lions and former Trojan, like he's able to create separation because he can run routes. I'm talking about routes. So he can run routes, and Jacoby Lane can run some routes, and Makai Lemon can run some routes. And I think that's something that like the fans don't really kind of look at. They kind of just say, hey, he's really fast. So what? I'm a Raider fan. I watch James Jett forever. James Jett actually got better at running routes, later in his career. But when he first started, it was just like, oh, he's just super fast. Yeah, that super fastness is nice, but like, they can stay with you if they know you're only going to run a post or a nine route. They can stay with you. And I think that's the one thing that they did. They prioritized two guys, Jacoby Lane and Makai Lemon, who, really want to be Trojans number one. And I think probably just, whatever they had to do to up the ante on their NIL, or to make sure they stay here at USC, they were able to do, because those guys have, and then she showed in a game like this, that they can get themselves open. Like there's sometimes you can just you need some guys who can get themselves open by running the correct routes. Like knowing how to use their leverage, use their hand to get through hand fighting, all those things that you want to see your top receivers do. I think also in this game, this was the first game where you didn't see 25 receivers play in the game. Like this was a game where like, hey, Jacoby, Makai, this is your game. Like you guys are the top receivers on this team. You're gonna be treated as such. And this was like I'm not putting them in the same class as these two receivers, but I'm saying it was like more like an NFL game where like Joe Burrow is back to pass and he's saying, oh yeah, I know that Jamar Chase and T Higgins are on the field. I know they're going to be. They're not going to be randomly. They're not going to be randomly replaced or subbed out of the game because of a wide receiver rotation thing. They're not going to play every snap. I totally understand why USC wouldn't want to do that. That makes all sense in the world to rotate them that way. But for the most part, for the majority of the snaps, give them an opportunity. Give Jacoby Lane an opportunity to go 7 catches for 120 yards and 3 touchdowns. Go let Makai Lemon be that guy who's going to, 6 catches for 99 yards and be that crazy yak guy. Like, let him do those things. And they're both really good prospects at wide receiver, and they're hands catchers. They can high point balls, both of them. They really give defensive backs a very hard time. That's basically what both of those guys do. They give both of them give wide receiver, the quarterbacks, a very hard time because of their footwork and their ability to get open using the route tree. And I don't know if Deuce has the same route tree as these two. I don't know if Zachariah Branch had the same route tree as those guys do. So while we yelled and scream about our frustration about not getting those guys the ball, probably a lot of it is because they could not get open themselves as far as the routes go. So great job by them. Shortening the rotation, I think really helped. You could have seen some, you could have seen a little bit of Richardson, you could have seen a little bit of Xavier Jordan. I think a guy like Xavier Jordan probably could have gotten there a little bit. Um, but I get it. I totally get it. Stay with the shorting the rotation at wide receiver. To me, I thought helped out a lot. Kyle Ford was the guy who kind of took over that Deuce Robinson role, as far if you will, that third wide receiver. He had 6 catches, 59 yards, crying in the end zone because he can always have that story he tells his grandkids that his last play he ever played in college football was a game winner in the Vegas Bowl against Texas A&M. Running backs, I thought in this running back room, they have a potential to have some real nice versatility next year. I think they might sign somebody as well. Besides Eli Sanders, who I thought Eli Sanders is going to be trying to get him on the show. But he's a guy who has that zero. He's a smaller back who can go 0 to 60. He can make people miss. But he is a guy who is just so incredibly fast that if you make one mistake, you took one bad angle, he can take it to the house. But then the power guys in Jackson and Peterson, Brian Jackson, Amarion Peterson, 16 attempts, and then you got 66 yards by Jackson, and then 12 carries, 43 yards by Peterson. There was a time in the game where the drive ended up being a interception, bad pass, horrible pass by Jaden Mayava, but you did see a lot of the shine of like, hey, this guy one if Jackson's going to get through that first line of defense, that if the defensive lineman doesn't get him down, there's not going to be very many linebackers, safeties, corners who are going to love to deal with him. I mean, he's a haul. Like he wears 21. I'm not saying he's not Lendell White, but he has that build where it's just like when Lendell White lowered his shoulder pad, like you had to think about. I'm just gonna just sit. I'm not gonna sit this play out, but I'm gonna hang on for the ride. I'm not necessarily gonna take on that shoulder because I know I know he might knock me out. So he might knock me out. He might put me out. He might put me on injured reserve if I try to make this tackle the way coach wants to do it. So there was that point, like I said, there was that portion of the game where they did have an opportunity to kind of just keep running and just being a real powerful team running the football, but Lincoln didn't stay patient with it and ended up throwing a first down pick. That's where Jaden, to me, like it's first down. Like, it has to be clear and present. Like, you know what I mean? Like it can't just be like, there's no way. I don't know what that's just like a panic throw. And I think that I would love to see this team function as an offense without the panic throws by Miller Moss, a panic throw by Jaden Mayapa. Like he gives you glimpses of it, but I don't know if he's played enough to really not do it as much anymore. Like he should be able to take care of the football a little bit better than he's shown. But and again, I didn't see anything from Jaden Mayava in this ball game to make me say, hey, I'm not going to look for a quarterback in the transfer portal. Like I can't say that. I think there is something where you could see Hussein Longstreet play this year. I think I would love the way this whole thing is so volatile. Like you almost want to get him on the field a little bit this year because if you don't, then almost feels like you can lose him. Because these guys just transfer so quickly. So, but we'll see. LA guy, California guy, California kid. Hopefully he stays a Trojan for a long time, as far as that goes. But offensively, I thought they ran the ball well. Could have stayed with it a little bit. Good to see Brian Jackson get his first touchdown. Amarion Peterson getting some run as well. Just Jaden does not run the RPO game very well. So, there's times where like the ends just really crash down hard. And if he just kept it, he would have had at least, 10, 15 yards easily. just to keep the offense honest. He wasn't able to do that. The picks were just abundant, and they're all different varieties of picks, and you know, it just wasn't a good job to keep taking care of the football. I feel like you get one or two turnover worthy plays in the game as a quarterback. After that, it's on you. But he did. But I want to do. You got to give him credit for bouncing back. This team for bouncing back. I mean, he came back 4 touchdowns. He didn't blink when he had an opportunity to win the game. I thought he was pretty much at 24/7. He was pretty much. I think it's pretty much lights out after that. I can't remember if the third pick was during that time period or not, but I mean they did a good job of getting the ball to wide receivers when they needed. So when they needed a big time play, they found Lane, they found Lemon, they found Ford. And those guys kind of took the whole thing home as far as the passing game goes for the Trojans. Defensively, again, we love Dan Tinlin. Again, we love Coach Henny, Coach Belk, all those guys, and I think this is an off season. This is a situation here. They got two more. They got this transfer portal that's ending, and another transfer portal coming up. And I think they have to decide. They got to do whatever they can to get those guys something they really need, and they need to get some better players for them. And I mean, like, give them. They have a couple of defensive linemen coming in, defensive tackles coming in. They need an edge. A lot of times they blitz, but the blitzing is an art form where like it's an art. You blitz, but then you have to have you have to have players who are good enough to get the quarterback down and get to the quarterback on a blitz. And I don't know if they have those kind of players on this team right now. Eric Gentry is needed other places. There's times where they put him on the edge where he actually did a good job getting to the quarterback, but like he's not an edge. Like they need some of the edge guys to come through. They need Cameron Fountain to come through. They need a guy like I think Brendan Shelby came through with a nice sack today as well in the ball game defensively. So and then Kamari Ramsey, like whatever's keeping that kid at USC, please just whatever we're feeding him, whatever we're paying him, whatever NIL, whatever. I like make sure he sits at the head of the table at dinner time because that guy is a unique, just tremendous ball hawking, safety who I know NFL scouts would have taken in the first round this year easily, but he wants to stay in school, so good for him. He's been fantastic this year. He has been great, and I can't wait to see what he does next year. But I mean, he needs help. He needs help. We can't have one safety and then nobody else. We can't do the Kalen Bullock thing, right? Kalen Bullock by himself on defense, and then and then we'll take it from there. No, we need more than just one guy. I think Caden. I think he is so good on film as well too. Like I can't wait to break that stuff down in the offseason. We're gonna go position group by position group and kind of show you what's going on, like what went on last year and how they can improve this year. We'll start with the quarterbacks coming up, and why we'll talk about it. We'll talk about why Miller Moss wasn't why he failed this year and why Jaden Mayaba. I know he's 3-1 as a starter, but he is why he's been up and down as well too. We'll talk about all those things coming up. But this is just a recap of the Vegas Bowl out there in Las Vegas. It's kind of fun to watch because this channel is Raiders and USC. Kind of fun to watch USC play in the Raiders Stadium as well. But like I said, defensively, again, they were put in some really bad situations. That he always holds people to he always had that one drive where he holds them to a field goal. I think those things are really huge. Every little thing that they do defensively is we know it's with the caveat of hey they desperately need more defensive talent, and if they can get more defensive talent, then we're not sitting here doing what we're doing now, just praying and hoping that somebody gets a sack or somebody gets a play here and there. We gotta we gotta make sure we can do it. And we can be, the guys up in, the difference between like some of these teams, like Oregon or whatever, Ohio State or Notre Dame, like for the most part, these guys, these playoff teams, when they're playing the Minnesotas, when they're playing the Marylands, when they're playing the Washingtons, they go out, they know they can win those games. And they're just like, okay, we'll just be 500 against the really good teams that are on the schedule, which is usually only two games a lot of times, or maybe 4 games, or maybe 4 games. That's the problem. Like, the problem for this team, for this USC got up for a lot of games, but for the most, they got up for every game they played. They were up and ready to go. They just could not beat these bad teams, and that was the most hard thing to deal with, is their inability to beat these bad teams. And if they're able to do that next year, then maybe they can make the playoff. But they need depth on the offensive and defensive line again. So, and then that's it again. They keep needing it. So like they're just not they've lost a lot of depth there. So they should be able to so hopefully they can be able to improve themselves as far as that goes. But they need more depth there badly. So the offseason is coming up here for USC. USC wins. Shout out to the offensive line. I thought the offensive line played very well in this game. Only gave 1 sack. Killian O'Connor did a great job as far as protecting the quarterback from the center position. They lost Elijah Page early in this game, ankle injury, and they were able to. They didn't give up anything for the rest of the game. As far as sacks go, they get 1 sack the entire game. But I thought we are worried about center badly because Monheim is gone and going to go out there and make money in the National Football League. I thought O'Connor did a really good job. You didn't see any snaps go over anybody's head. You didn't see any issues with the exchange with the quarterback. That was fine. And then the calling out the blitzes, things like that. Like, I think he did a really good job in this ball game. So doesn't mean that like I said, he gives you a starting point. Doesn't mean you don't go out there and get competition. But I feel good about what I saw from a young offensive line. They just need more bodies because they can't afford to go out there and just have a paper thin, like, oh, we lost Page for 3 games, so now we got walk-ons on the walk-ons everywhere on the offensive line. Defensive line, they say goodbye to, or defense as a whole, they say goodbye to guys like Jalen Smith, who didn't play, but Nate Clifton, Mason Cobb, Jamil Muhammad. It was weird because Jamil Muhammad kind of came into. It's weird with him because he actually played very well and was kind of living in the backfield, if you will, when Alex Grinch was here, but he just never could get to the quarterback really, as far as that goes. When this new group of defensive coaches took over, so wish him well. I know he tweeted out that this was the best decision of his life to come from I think it was at Georgia Southern or Georgia, one of the schools out there in Georgia, and came over to USC, and he loved his time out here. So wish he could have got a little bit more productive, a little bit more production there. But we'll see if he can make the league. I mean, I think that's maybe, or just say if he's not, then he'll be a professional in whatever he studied at USC, and he'll use that degree to go out there and do that. But we'll see. DeCarlos Nicholson, we know with the new rule, is trying to come back as well. Is trying to come back because he did spend time at the JUCO level. So the whole rule with JUCO means you can play 2 years of JUCO and you have 4 years of eligibility in college football. So at a 4-year school. So we'll see if he comes back. All right. So anybody, right? USC podcast. Good to be back. Good to be talking to you guys again. talking about USC football, and we'll talk about a bunch of different stuff in the offseason. We'll go over the whole thing. We'll kind of recap the season by position group, and we'll take it from there. And then after that, we'll see what happens with the Trojans in the portal. We'll kind of wrap that up to see if we can add anybody. As I'm doing the show today is the deadline for it. We'll see if they can add somebody else last minute, and then we'll kind of give you a summation of the class, if you will, as far as that goes. All right, so anybody right? USC podcast, folks, fight on.